see you, but what are you doing? You're behind a huge wall of books. I don't understand.
Let me explain. Let me explain.
Okay.
Let me explain.
1 minute.
Shall I do it now?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what happened. I'm going to be reading chapter 4 from this little book.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Okay, yes.
I'm going to be reading from this today, but
That is Busting Out of an Ordinary Man, which is really Ghetto Sketches 2.
Ghetto Sketches 2.
Okay,
And
got it.
as I said, the imbecilic publisher decided to retitle it The Busting Out of an Ordinary Man because they had a cover already set for another book, and they decided to use that cover on my book. But fortunately, along came the Cosmic Muffin, Zola Selena Hawkins herself, who put this cover on, which is much more fitting and appropriate to what is within the book itself. But that's not what I want to talk about immediately. Let me talk about this. The other day, a friend of mine asked a very interesting question. He says, Odie, what does a writer read? What does a writer read?
Yeah.
So a writer, if he's a writer, or she is a writer, then he or she must read books. And he said, like what? So, well, I'll show you. So what I did was bring out a few of the books that I've read in the past year to show my friend what I've been reading. And I'll just take these in this little wall of books, which is a better wall than any other kind of wall you could put up. I would rather have a wall of intelligence and knowledge than a wall of ignorance, but that's another story altogether. Anyway, I'm going to start with this little book here, written by a Nigerian-American writer named Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
Wow.
Chimamanda is writing about what it means to be a feminist and how you should raise a feminist. Feminists do not necessarily have to be women. They can be men who have that particular orientation.
Oh,
This particular book is one written by myself.
yes.
And it's called Matador Negro Massacre.
2.
And
Sakar 2.
part 2.
Yeah.
Number 1, book 1 started off but didn't quite complete the job. So the Matador, Diego Obolja, suggested that I should do a more complete job. So I wound up with this big boy here. Hard book to write, a lot in it. Coming right down, this is another one, written by yours truly. It's called Lady Bliss, and in cooperation with my friend, Rob Vernon, on the back, who was an instructor at Rockwell Aircraft for a number of years. We came up with the idea of what would happen if you had a woman accompany 7 astronauts, not as a comfort woman or anything like that, but each representation, each facet of this particular female would be a companion to one of the men. So she changes. It's a composite, complex, faceted figure who changes personalities and so forth to suit the desires of the men involved.
More solid than a hologram.
Exactly.
Okay.
You're right on it. You're right on it. This one, The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, is something that every American should read to find out. I was so impressed by the book, I wrote her a fan letter. I think it's probably one of the most important books to be published in America in the 21st century, because she's dealing with stuff that we're facing every day, the disproportionate imprisonment of young African males and young brown males.
Males and females?
Excuse me?
Males and females.
Males and females. Males and females. Thank you for adding that. My latest reading is beginning to take in a lot of stuff about Tai Chi because I am currently involved in making an effort to study for a certificate to be able to teach Tai Chi. So that's taking up a little bit of my time.
It's the Harvard, what's it called?
This book is called The Harvard Medical School Guide to Tai Chi.
And by whom?
This book is by a man named Peter M. Wayne and Mark L. Fuerst, F-U-E-R-S-T.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting book.
Looks like it.
I'm both enjoying reading it and laboring through it. Ditto for Tai Chi Chuan Theory by Dr. Yang Jung Ming. And basically it goes into detail about what Tai Chi is. It's a marvelous book. A lot of it is in Chinese, but they give you a very good translation of what they're talking about. This one is yet another one. Someone named Zola Salina recommended it, and it opens up a lot of physical and spiritual doors to Tai Chi. The intent is to show you how beneficial Tai Chi can be to your fitness.
Anatomy, Fitness, Tai Chi by?
The book is by someone named Loretta M. Wallering.
Oh, man.
Wallering, Mrs. Wallering. Good book, I'm enjoying. Here we have, here we go. It had to be. This is Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff, which gives you a pretty good view of what's happening inside the White House. And I don't have to belabor that point. This is Miles Davis, given to me by...
Oh, Fire and Fury is by?
Michael Wolff.
Oh, Michael Wolff, of course,
Yeah.
of course.
This is the autobiography of Miles Davis, given to me as a present by Zola Salina. She's so nice. The book was done with Miles Davis, with Quincy Troupe, and coincidentally, I happened to be one of the people in the Watch Writers Workshop with Quincy Troupe. Yay, long ago. What we have here is really stunningly wonderful book.
Oh, yes.
This is Michelle Obama's, I don't know if you would call it her autobiography, but it's about his time in the White House and before and after. And it is really a very well done book.
It's called Becoming.
Great piece of writing, excuse me.
The title is?
The title is Becoming.
By Michelle Obama.
Becoming. Why do they do things like that?
I don't know. Why put a label over that?
They could have put it right beneath it.
Whatever.
Anyway,
Yes.
it's Becoming.
And
And
it's very
I
becoming.
like what she's doing. She's indicating that she's still becoming. I think that's a vital thing for a human being to say and to have going on, because forever throughout your life, you should be on the verge of becoming. Once you've been, you may as well say, I'm dead. Like I was.
All right.
This book should be read by all the people who are asking questions about why it is that the current occupant of the White House is behaving the way that he is behaving. The book has articles written by 27 healthcare professionals, psychiatrists. It was edited by Dr. Bandy Lee of Yale University. And these 27 psychiatrists, mental health experts, offer an assessment of the president. They, by oath, have sworn not to disclose information of their clients or their patients and so forth. So they're not doing this because they make it quite plain. They've never treated Trump. The only thing they've done is made observations of him. And from their observations, which are quite specific and well researched, they have come to the conclusions, for example, that he is a malignant narcissist. I think most people see that behavior in him during the recent shutdown of the government that was done basically to satisfy a tantrum he had, and has been reopened without him being given anything that he wanted to have, that is money for his wall.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of the book?
The name of this book?
Uh-huh.
This book is The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. And they're not playing around. Mm-hmm. The reason they took it upon themselves to speak about this is that they felt that the nation's national security was at risk. So they had to go out on a limb and explain, we feel that it's necessary for us to let the American public understand that you have a dangerous person in the White House.
That book came out very soon after he became president.
This book came out a year ago or something like that. Hmm. This is 2019. Yeah, it came out last year. Okay. I can't spend a lot of time talking about, this is America's fascinating Indian heritage. Ah. Beautiful book.
American Fascinating Indian Heritage. That's the name of the book.
The name of the book is America's Fascinating Indian Heritage.
Wow, okay.
Unbelievable. The book was given to me by a lady named Ileana do Nascimento some years ago. And for those of us who claim some Indian heritage in our background, I think it's a vital bit of reading. Mm-hmm. I have no idea where you could purchase the book now. Mm-hmm. I believe it was it comes from the Reader's Digest Association. Mm-hmm. They compiled a number of articles about Indian heritage and came up with this book. For example, they have articles about woodland warriors, nomadic horsemen, planters and herdsmen, foragers and gatherers, traders and fishermen. They go across the United States, well, across the North American continent, and and offer insights about the native people who lived here before it was invaded by the Europeans.
Okay, let me make a suggestion.
Yes.
Let you go ahead and go through all the books, and then we'll do a separate one for chapter 4 of what you're reading presently.
Oh, I'm going to get through this right now.
Okay, well, because it's important that people understand, because I'm sure folks are writing down and trying to remember.
Oh, okay, so you're suggesting we do chapter 4 another day?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Good idea.
Okay.
So I can slow down.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay.
Okay, I just showed you that big, thick book, Matador 2.
Yeah.
This was the original Matador book, much smaller, as you can see. Mm-hmm. And the cover art was done by a good friend of mine named Tony Gleason, who is a superb artist, as you can see. And he's been very helpful in trying to describe what the bullfight would feel like in pictures.
So he did Matador Negro 1 and 2. He did the covers for both of those books.
Both of them. I didn't mention that?
No.
I should have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's another book by yours truly. The cover photo was done by Zola Salina. There she is again. Matter of fact, I need not joke about it. This lady has done covers for 17 of my books, so she has a track record. Black, white, and brown on the blue line is really a series of connected stories that happen on the blue line that goes from 1st Avenue in Long Beach to 7th Avenue in downtown LA, the blue line. And I decided to just take a ride and see what was happening and who was rioting and so forth. And that's basically what it's about. Ha! This is Henry Miller.
Oh,
I've always liked Henry Miller from the very beginning.
not everybody does.
Well, I'm not everybody, and I hope everybody's not me.
Okay.
But I liked Henry Miller's work because he was so honest, and the man had a bushel basket full of words I was forced to run to the dictionary about.
And what's the name of this book?
This book is called The Tropic of Cancer.
Tropic
the Tropic of, I'm sorry. Oh,
No.
he has a Tropic of Cancer and a Tropic of Capricorn.
Oh,
This
really?
is Capricorn.
Uh-huh.
Sorry about that.
Uh-huh.
But he has some books, Sexus, Nexus, and Plexus, the Rosy Crucifixion, he calls them. So he's written a series of books about things. The Colossus of Marusi, Black Spring. Oh, you could go on.
So
and
he's
on
one
and
of
on.
your favorite authors, Henry Miller.
Yeah, he's honestly nasty.
Okay.
You know, he was writing in 1936, I believe,
Uh-huh.
and, you know, talking about things that were talked about that are not at all, or in secret, hidden, nasty little places.
Okay,
So-
so you see honestly nasty. Okay.
Well, when I say nasty, I'm not talking about filthy, I'm talking about sexually salacious.
Oh. All right.
Not sexually malicious, that's something else. Remember, the books I'm showing you that I'm running through are some of the books that I've read during the course of the past year. I couldn't bring them all out because the table would be
You are
overwhelmed.
prolific. You are a prolific reader. This is true.
As a
And writer.
person who has been very interested in our ancestral religion, called by some people the religion, I think this book tells you a lot about what it is that you should understand about the spiritual systems that were brought to America, to the Americas, to the Caribbean, by the African importation
And it's called,
of enslaved Africans.
what's the
The
title?
book is called Oludumare. Oludumare. Some people might just simply say God,
Okay. And
but
it's,
it offers you an understanding of what part God plays in the Yoruba belief system. The Yoruba people of Nigeria are very interesting people. They have not come up with, who's written it? I'll tell you in just a second. Bolaji Idowu, Bolaji Idowu, Bolaji Idowu, Bolaji Idowu. The Yoruba people of Nigeria, very interesting people. They have not come up with some world class sculpture. They haven't built civilization that lasted for thousands and thousands of years, despite the fact that they've always had cities. Ibadan and Ile-Ife are good examples. But what they've done, what they did do, because so many members of the Yoruba people were taken into slavery, what they did do was create or perpetuate some spiritual system. I say some, it's not just simply one. They perpetuated some spiritual system that had permeated the whole world. You can't go anywhere without finding some vestige of the Yoruba spiritual system. In America, for example, this country, America itself, you will have people say, I am a believer in the religion, or a believer in Yoruba, or Ifa. And what they're saying is that I believe in the spiritual systems that were brought here by enslaved Africans and grew and developed. Cuba, Brazil, Haiti, of course, and almost all throughout the Caribbean, you'll find people who are believers in this particular spiritual system. At one point in time in Cuba, since it was about 60 or 70% African, you could find people who could still speak Yoruba, as well as the Spanish they had been forced to speak. In that same vein, this is another book called For New World Yoruba Rituals, and it's written by Mr. Mason, John Mason, and it just simply explains how it is that this worship can be done.
Goes to the divination process.
Divination doesn't play a part in this one. It's just simply it suggests rituals. The divination part, with all due respect, you're right. Divination is a part of it, but I won't try to get into that because it's so complicated that it would take more time than we have time for.
Okay.
But the book would be interesting. This is a book called The Powers of the Orishas, which is what the deities in the Yoruba spiritual system is called. The book is written by Mejini Gonzalez Whippler. Professor Whippler is very knowledgeable, and the book is very interesting. Lots of books about the religion. Racing right along. Ha! This one is From the Ashes. From the Ashes. The book was written by Bud Schulenberg, and the story is very simple. As a descendant of one of the students from the Watts Writers Workshop that was established by Bud Schulenberg in wake of the 1965 rebellion, we created something. And at this point in time, I'm still seeing or running into people that I knew from the old Watts Writers Workshop days. The workshop itself was in operation from 1966 to about 1970, and then it began to dissolve, or for whatever reason I can't really understand. But it was a powerhouse in its time, and some of the writers, John W. Block, Harlan Ellison, Louise Merriweather, came to Watts 103rd, to the Watts Workshop, and helped those of us who were interested in learning how to write better. This is my friend Kamal Daoud.
Oh, yes.
His book has been published by a French publisher, and it's called Gouillard Notes from L.A. Kamal was one of the people who came out of the Watts Writers Workshop. At one point, after I had spent some time in the workshop, Thomas Spratt, who was the West Side director of the workshop, appointed me the leader of the West Side branch, which is West Boulevard and Slauson in LA. They were trying to take things a little bit outside of Watts proper. And Kamal showed up, and after about 2 or 3 sessions, I politely asked him to leave because he was overwhelming people with his work. He's a wonderful poet. He's one of my favorite poets. Here we are at some of the, this is by Mark Stingler, and it's Natural Healing, a Natural Healing for, encyclopedia. I'm a great fan of making yourself well. I think that too often we depend on people who are practicing medicine to practice on us, and we have no alternative in many cases but to allow them to practice because we don't know what else to do. This is a suggestion that there are other things to be done, and it's in Natural Healing by Mark Stingler. Good book. All righty. This is Nadine Gordimer. Nadine Gordimer, the name of the book is Telling Times. Patricia Forte, who's a member of my writing workshop at the Bilbrew Library in LA on Jarvis and El Segundo. Big, nice building. I suggested to Pat Forte that she read Nadine Gordimer. Nadine Gordimer is a white woman. I believe she's dead now, but she'll never die really because her work is here. She was instrumental in helping Nelson Mandela get freed. She was one of these people who worked tirelessly to get him out, and she was one of the people who greeted him when he came out. Her writing is almost incandescent at times. She's a very good writer, and like I say, I recommended her to Pat Forte, who is also a good writer in her own right, and she found something that she hadn't known before. I didn't know who she was. This is my friend Mark Mathubane. Mathubane is a South African writer like Nadine Gordimer. Different tribes. She's from the white tribe, he's from the Zulus, black tribe.
What's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Kaffir Boy. Kaffir is a term that Boers, the South African apartheid people, used, and it would be equivalent to nigger. So Kaffir is what they call those people in South Africa who were black. And it just simply details the trials and tribulations and the suffering of people under apartheid. That God is gone, except that the structure still remains. The South African blacks are still at the lowest rung of the ladder, still waiting to get paid, still waiting to be free, because according to some polls, 87% of the wealth still belongs to 13% of the weak people, and those people just happen to be white. ANC and all the rest of the other political terms, titles aside, is who got the money. And the average man who's living and working and still living in Soweto does not have the money. This book, The Mexicans, is a personal portrait of a people by a man named Patrick Oster. Oster is someone who went to live in Mexico City and has to me, a very sympathetic feeling for the Mexican people. He talks about them in a way that I've not read a white writer talk about brown people before. First of all, he makes an effort to know something about the lives of the people rather than try to write about them from the outside. He's not having an out-of-body experience. What he's saying really is that there, but for the grace of God, might be me. And for those people who are saying they're trying to invade America, I think you should put the shoe on the other foot and think about what it would feel like if you were living in a country that was basically not offering you any opportunity to be a human being. That takes Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador. And so what do they want to do? They want to come to where the gravy is. Isn't that what the people from Europe wanted to do before they decided to come and invade the Native Americans' land? The book is called The Mexicans. Ha! We are now at The Kid, written by Sapphire, who is author of Push. Sapphire is one of our young, brilliant African-American females. The book is a gas. I don't want to try to disclose what's in it and all of that, but check out Sapphire.
Okay.
The Forbidden City.
You said who was the author of Sapphire?
Sapphire. That is her name.
Sapphire is by Sapphire.
It's by Sapphire. It's
Of
called
course.
The Kid.
Okay.
The
All
Kid.
right. Hey,
The Kid.
The Kid. Okay.
This is the Forbidden City.
Ah, my goodness.
In order to know China, or to know something about present day China, you've got to know something about old China,
Okay.
imperial China, imperialistic China.
Imperialistic China.
And this is this is one of the ones I picked up for I think $1.50 in a thrift shop
Whoa.
on
Really?
Atlantic Boulevard. And I'm not going to tell anybody else where it is, but it's superbly illustrated. Got everything you would want to have in it
Got it.
about China. My student at the Bilbrook workshop at the library, Bilbrook Library, gave me this book. Karen Johnson gave me Black Writers of America, a comprehensive anthology. And I read it about once every 2 weeks, or read some part of it about once every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And each time I read it, I get some better information about something I didn't know concerning black writers. And thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
We went to a cooking demonstration a few months ago that was given by a woman named Kamudi Maranthe. Kamudi Maranthe is a Marathi cook. Marathi cooking is some of the most delicious Indian cooking you'll ever have in your life. She took a few items plus a coriander seed or two and made us some incredible food.
That's the truth.
We bought the cookbook because we wanted to have food like that.
Plus her presentation.
The presentation was,
Oh.
she was wonderful.
Yeah.
And here's what we are focusing on from time to time. Once we get away from pasta and grits and all the other good things we like, you can whip up a Marathi dish from time to time.
Amen.
This good old friend is called A Hook's Guide to Good Writing. It deals with grammar, style, and usage.
Looks like you've had that for a long time.
Okay, this book was given to me in another writing workshop by a lady named O.C. Slaughter.
Oh.
O.C. Slaughter was a story unto herself. She gave me the book. O.C., she wouldn't mind me telling this because she likes stories. O.C. had a beautiful house. She was a productive member of society. She worked in a real estate firm. She owned several properties. She drank a quart of scotch almost every day after work, went to work, sober as a judge the next morning, took care of business, and when we had writing workshops at her house, she had like a swing door, and it was interesting because she would leave our meeting in the front room after a few minutes and go through the swinging door and start swigging scotch. And by the time we finished, got down into the first 45 minutes, she would be swinging. Lovely woman. I really adored her.
So you're saying if you have a good writing guide, you should refer to it often.
This is what it's called, Hook's Guide to Good Writing. The book offers you an explanation. What is a novelette? What is a novelette? What's the difference between an essay and a piece of expose writing? What script means this, that? It has all kind of information. Interesting enough, probably because the time it's written, it's all slightly racist. They say things like Negro writing, of course, is done at a lower level, but you know,
Yeah.
it was a sign of the times,
Amen.
and it will always be there. Here we are back to Donald again. Who is Donald Trump and how has he risen to the pinnacle of American public life? This is written by David David K. Johnson, Pulitzer Prize winner, who has been covering this guy for a long time and has written books that are just as revealing as the book written by the psychiatrist, because he knows his subject, and all he's saying is that the guy is a con man, and what he has done is con himself into the upper echelon of American life. From the looks of things, he may not be there too much longer, because Mr. Mueller is circling his wagons. This book is written by, of course, our friend Mr. Buffett, I'm sorry. I want to use the French pronunciation, but the book is written by Roger Lowenstein, and it details the making of an American capitalist. Buffett is an unabashed American capitalist. Makes no doubt, makes no bones about that. He doesn't whisper money, he
is money.
Talks about money, he is money. But to his credit, he's not just simply a greedy guy who's trying to collect dollar bills. He does a lot of good. He and his friend Gates have opened up their fortunes to divide the money that they have in half, and they have access to billions to establishing various charities and philanthropic organizations that dispense their money.
They're kind of a Robin Hood, robbing from themselves to give to the poor.
Well, you know, I don't think that they're totally Robin Hoods. I don't think they're totally innocent.
No.
Because in order to make money, you have to do some dirty, rotten things at times. And I'm sure that neither one of them is an angel. But they do angelic things. And they have to be given credit for that. Finally, I'm coming to the end of that. This is the plot to Hack America, written by one of my favorite national security, anti-terrorism writers. This man's name is Malcolm Nance.
Yay.
Malcolm Nance can be seen on MSNBC on almost any evening of the week, trying to explain to those of us who don't know any better what it is that's going on between the Putin subversive regime or the Putin's effort to subvert American democracy such as it is, and what the connection is between our boy and their boy. Something is rotten in the state of Russia, and the Putin brand is to make things rotten in the state of America or the United States. Thus far, he's done a very good job of it if you listen to all the pronouncements being made by his boy, and I don't know what else to call him. Well, a lot of the other things I could call him, but I'm not going to get into that. So,
before you complete. Now,
I have a lot of reading to do.
I know, okay, and so, you know, the average person maybe cannot read that many books in 1 year.
What do you mean? I'm an average person.
Moving right along. Okay, you're more than average. But you initially started learning about other authors, and from what venue you were at, where the men met and they talked about, have you read Czar?
Well, many years ago and far away, back in Chicago, we had, I guess you call them intellectual clubs, and you know, a group of people might get together. It was not just simply for the sake of a book club to discuss the latest author, but people who were going to school and some who were not going to school, including myself, who could go attend these meetings. In this case, the one you're thinking about, it happened at the Avon building on 61st and Dorchester, where most of the people in the building, all men at one point, all men, were going to University of Chicago, and various other universities in the Chicago area, but mostly at the University of Chicago. And we would gather on evenings or usually on the weekend sometime and sit around, 15, 20, 30 people in a room about this, They might have a bottle of raw red wine and nobody was smoking weed or anything. It was just if Mahmoud al-Hadi from Algiers was there, he might be talking to us about the Algerian situation under the French.
So you had more than just African Americans in the building. You had a variety of...
All kind of people. There were quite a few Africans at the time because they were receiving grants from their government to come to America to study. I ran into one of the guys, a man named Felix Aminu, years later, in 1992, who had returned to Ghana, become a big shot in the Ghanaian government.
Were there concentration camp survivor?
We had people like that. One of my best friends was a man named David Werner, who talked to me during the course of one whole night about being in Dachau and Auschwitz. He had been in both of them and managed to survive. He was a mathematician, and we played chess together for 2 years. And I managed to claim a draw. Once.
I know you talked about him, and you had most respect for him.
I wanted to hit him.
Because he'd won.
Because he was not
winning
letting me win. And I wanted him to let me win because it hurt me.
But he was an honest man.
No, but I mean, whoever had some special expertise was willing to share it. We had, a guy who was a Shakespearean scholar. I wasn't that much interested in Shakespeare, but, he would bring up little known couplets from Shakespearean sonnets to try to explain the application to modern day life. There were some women there, fewer, I think out of a total, it may have been 3 or 4 women who were regulars compared to 20, 30 guys, but they were not given any lower rung on the ladder. They weren't talked down to. If you had your stuff together, then you could come out with something. Me personally, I have to admit that early on, I did not have my stuff together, and I was roundly whipped for not having my stuff together. When someone can say to you, what do you mean? I mean, you call yourself a writer, and you haven't read Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, or you haven't read Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Don't you know who Pushkin was? Pushkin was a Russian African. Don't you have any interest in Junichiro Tanazaki's work? And how about Nikos Kazantzakis? Isn't he a part of this world? Well, Langston Hughes, I said. And they said, well, we all know Langston's work. What do you know of his work? Well, I know simple. And it went on from there. Needless to say, after my whippings, I didn't put my tail between my legs and run off and hide. I ran to the library.
Ah, so you believe in going to the library?
I had to, out of self-defense.
And so people should get a library card at this day where people are reading stuff on their Nooks and
the
Kindles.
People who are at these meetings?
I'm saying, so even in today's world, people should go to the library and get a book.
I wouldn't,
get a library card.
I wouldn't suggest it. I would demand it. If I had the opportunity to say to every recalcitrant, self-educated person, don't hesitate. Run fast as you can to your nearest library. They automatically have more information than you can possibly have. Why would you want to sit up in your house with a book or two when you could go to the library and have access to a whole building full of books?
Well, I know one of our youngest readers, or people who appreciate reading, is a young lady named Ava Howard. And Ava seems to truly love books.
You know, yeah, that's a very interesting thing that's coming up. I've been teaching a writing class for the last 40 some years in different places at different times. And I'm beginning to notice since the iPad and all the rest of this, the cyberware has become epidemic in our lives. A lot of people have become so addicted to having facts proven to them or shown to them immediately that they no longer have to think about what the process is that should be used to find out what the fact is or what the meaning of something is. And I don't want to rant and rave about this, but I think it's causing a lot of us to write poorly or to write less well because we don't read as often or as much. I know you can pick up, Kindle and stare at it and so forth. But interestingly enough, I believe it's just a personal old-fashioned thing. There's nothing like opening a book, flipping the pages, having a glass of sherry by your side, if you have a glass of sherry, taking a sip. So I think you associate something like a little buzz with the little buzz you might get here. Some people might say, well, maybe heroin would accomplish the same purpose. I don't think so.
And one other thought is that not only do we have Ava, we have Marlena, who also, Hoover's child, who also is not involved with the computer or with video, but love of books and love of nature.
Love of books.
Yes.
I think we're going to reach a point at some point in time when writers, real writers, not cyberware experts, but real writers will become sort of like latter-day monks. People who have the quill and the ink pot, and they're sitting there scribbling and they will become scribes. I don't think we will ever become outdated, because there will always be a need for people to read and write. And the writing will not be done by robots for our sake.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Thank you, Odie Hawkins. And it is the truth, folks. He read the majority of those books last year, or reread. He wrote them earlier, perhaps, and he checked out his reading just to make sure they were still current. And so,
I've been validated.
Reading and writing. Reading
and writing and arithmetic. Talk to you the tune of the hickory stick. I was your bashful Bafford Bow, and you were my gal in calico. Humpty, Humpty Dumpty, he sat up on the wall. Humpty Dumpty on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back again. Jackie Horner was sitting in the corner. Jackie Horner in the corner, eating his Christmas pie. Stuck in a thumb, pulled out a plum, said, what a great guy am I. Ring around the roses, pocket full of posies. Ride, Sally, ride. Ride, Sally, ride. Bye.
Bye.